So today I'm looking at foolproof sketching and painting techniques for beginners for pencil, pen and watercolours. Now this book has over 400 illustrations. It's a hardback book with 96 pages and it was originally published in Japan in 2015, and this edition is the English translation from 2023. So we'll have a little look inside. Now straight away when you open the cover you can see all these lovely food items and some other little pots and jars. The food does feature quite heavily in this book, but it's a great way to start off with your drawing because it's all about drawing the things that are all around you. So we have the contents and we start with drawing objects with a box shape, drawing objects with cylinders, drawing flat objects, and then we have additional information. We have a little note by the author of why this book was written, and then we move on to some examples of the shapes you'll be able to draw, and it says your table is filled with objects, so you don't have to go very far to look for something to draw. So we have part 1, drawing objects with a box shape, and you can see here how easy it is to follow this book because you have very simple line drawings, you've got some colour illustrations, and the author explains to you in simple sentences how to do exactly what they're telling you to do. So it's really going to make drawing a lot easier. These books are so good for visual learners who prefer lots of pictures, but what I like is you've got both here. You have your written instructions, but they're very easy to follow, and you've got your line drawings. So we have a quick look at perspective rules, which can be very confusing, and I've read them all through and I found them very easy to understand. Now when I'm reading a book, I try to look at it as a complete beginner and how I would feel if this was the first book on drawing that I was looking at, and I find they are just so brilliantly easy to follow. So we move on to drawing the tea canister. And then we have the finished tea canister, and we can draw a Rubik's Cube. And then we have a lovely 2 pages on using light and shadow. And we have box perspective and commonly made errors. We have some toy cars, height and orientation. And then I love these examples. Drawing something like a shirt or a pair of glasses can be really difficult, but when you put them into the box shape you can just see exactly how to draw them, how to use your lines, and just get the shape much more realistic. And then we have a gallery of box shapes, and then we move on to part 2, drawing objects with cylinders. We start with a candle and a can of tomatoes, and we add colour here, and you can see what I mean about all these lovely steps here and then the finished item. And then it's how to differentiate your drawings with different shapes. And then we have let's try drawing a bottle of balsamic vinegar, and then we're going to colour in the bottle with some watercolour. We have various bottles and jars, drawing a cylinder on its side, and you can see how you can use that to draw different types of object quite easily. Even an umbrella, you may not think that's a cylinder, but when you've read this book you can see how it starts as a cylinder, and that makes the drawing so much easier. We have a toothbrush set, shadows, some flower shapes, a gallery of cylinder based shapes, and drawing a teacup with a handle, a teapot, a cup and pot gallery, and some variations on the cylinder shape. And then we move on to part 3, drawing flat objects, and we start with basic plate, and then we add a spoon and a fork, and then we have a roll cake on a plate. And then we have a sandwich on a plate. Probably not a good idea to use this book if you're hungry. A gallery of plates with objects on them. And then we have flat objects, ornaments, and part 4, additional information. And now this covers your art supplies, and you don't need a lot to start using this book. It talks about transparent and opaque watercolours, needed erasers, a review of the basic steps. Then we have how to use solid watercolours and mixing colours, how to take care of your paints and your palette, a watercolour brush pen, and some colour swatches here. And then we have layered paint swatches and mixed colour swatches, and then we're at the end of the book. So it's very nice to get a hardback book. It's really such a wonderful book to use. Well, when I saw this advertised, I got quite excited about it because it's another one of those books I really would have loved years ago when I started to draw and paint. And I think this is so nice that it gives you the basics of drawing, but also some basics of painting with watercolours to add some colour to your drawings. And it is so good for visual learners. It's really important for visual learners to have really great illustrations and line diagrams, but also some easy writing to understand. And this is very clear and easy to use for anybody, especially beginners, and people of all different ages will find this book very useful.